This program is made possible by Lois Pope. We salute her generous philanthropy and unwavering support of our veterans.
From PTSD to homelessness, a new generation of military service members face an uphill battle as they transition back into civilian life. We explore some unique therapies and hear from local veterans on a mission to help others. That and more. Stay with us as we dive into your South Florida. Hello and welcome to this month's Your South Florida. I'm Pam Gigante. Florida is home to more than 1.5 million veterans, the third largest veteran population in the nation. But for many of them, both the visible and invisible scars of war remain long after they've returned home. This transition back into the civilian world can be complex. The risk of suicide, homelessness, and mental health issues are higher for this population. As part of our recent town hall, we take a look at local resources and hear from South Florida veterans who are helping to make a difference in the lives of others. So let's go ahead and start, if you will, by looking at some of the biggest challenges that veterans face after leaving military service. We all know what they are: PTSD, depression, suicide, homelessness, the list goes on. And within the growing female veteran population, there is the issue of military sexual trauma, or MST. Brittany, I want to start with you. You are one of these vets with MST. Talk to us tonight about the impacts of this kind of trauma and how it led to the creation of the Serving Our Sisters program, which you started.
So for me, this trauma kind of dictated what my future to do something to help people who had been in the same position I was. Because, I would sit there even after my assault on the hospital bed and wasn't really getting the support I needed from my leadership. I discovered, there just weren't the resources needed. And the VA does their best with PTSD, but it's only recently that they've really started specializing in MST. So I had a lot of things that people were struggling with when getting out. They developed the PTSD from the MST. We needed a way for people to access their resources that they're entitled to once they get onto the civilian side so they can successfully.
And Alberto, I want to bring you into the conversation. Tell us about your experience serving in the Air Force. Like, what obstacles did you have to deal with during your transition back into civilian life?
I have a little bit of a different narrative in that I really have to give the Air Force a salute, if you will, for being really intentional in preparing us for successful transition back into civilian life. I mean, that was a long time ago at this point. But I do recall, you have to make the decision probably a year out before your term comes to a conclusion if you're going to re-enlist or not. And once you said that you're not going to re-enlist, they immediately put you in a transition sort of like educational moment where you really get to understand how to successfully transition out. And so, I have actually a pretty optimistic story about the fact that the Air Force alerted me, for example, that the Department of Labor had a law on the books that said I can go back to my prior employer that I was with before I joined the military, and they would have to take me back. And at the time, being married and the small child and one on its way, it was really helpful to land on my feet, and I wouldn't have done so but for the transition assistance that the Air Force provided me.
And then, Luis, you were wounded, right, while serving in Afghanistan. Talk to us about that and kind of the lasting impacts of that on your life.
Serving in Afghanistan in 05, I was a combat engineer, and I was an airborne combat engineer. And during a route clearance mission, we dropped off the infantry and we're coming back. We were engaged in an ambush that 2 RPGs hit my gun truck. Ambush lasted about an hour and a half. I've had multiple, at least five or six surgeries on my knees and ankles for shrapnel removal and to clear up some other damage that was taken there. Another physical impact, I can no longer have children. And it's also PTSD. I was on fire for a brief period. So yeah, there was it's a day I will always remember, but it's also a day that I don't think necessarily defines me.
Well, we know that the invisible scars of war can last a lifetime. We know that. We've heard that from our veterans. But with the help of others that have experienced the same trauma, there's hope. And recently, the Your South Florida team met up with a Vero Beach veteran who found peace out on the water and is now providing a unique therapy to other veterans. Take a look.
So how was the fishing the other day?
It was good. Yeah, we caught the dolphin, caught the wahoo, so had a good trip.
How many vets did you have out?
We had 3.
Okay.
My name's Kevin Klepak. I'm with Wounded Waters, and I'm the founder of it. It's a nonprofit organization to help veterans. Last year alone, we took out 94 vets and first responders. This year, we're going to get over the 100 mark. We're continuing to grow and keep doing things. We're always learning from all the vets that come out with us and ways to improve. So we found out that, hey, a lot of vets, they don't want to go way offshore and go fishing and stuff like that. So we do river cruises where we just get people on a boat that just want to go hang out. We do snorkeling trips, diving trips. There he is. Nice little dolphin. We do any type of fishing that we can find. It all started about 5 years ago, stationed up at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I used to take my soldiers on a weekend fishing to get them out of the barracks. After one fishing trip, one of the soldiers came up and told me thank you, and I didn't think nothing of it. And then he stopped me and he said, no, really, thank you. And I was like, well, what's going on? And he told me that, hey, I was going to go home and kill myself tonight in the barracks. And this is a soldier that I've known for years. I mean, he's a great kid, outstanding, stellar performer. You never would know it, but it's just the demons that are inside of all of us that they just start getting so emotional that you can't handle it. And he said just being out there, being able to be with other members of the military and stuff like that, and just being able to connect with them and talk to them, and actually really helped him out.
My name is Chuck Gerald. I am U.S. Army. I served from 75 to 78, so I'm old school, old guy. I hang around and keep the young guys in line, and they look after me just as much. I work in tandem with Kevin. I am involved with a PTSD support group. We have veterans that we bring in on a weekly basis, and we talk about the issues of the day, what our triggers are, how to live going forward. We don't go backwards. We don't go back to the jungle or the sandbox, but we go forward with our lives, trying to bring everybody in and get them a good quality of life. What Kevin does is he has an opportunity to get these veterans out. The hardest thing is to get a veteran out of the den, out of the house. Once you break that, then you're about 50% there. It gives them a chance to come out, get out in nature, hang out with other veterans, and do stuff that's taking your mind off of the issues that you may be having. Once it brings that bit of normality back to the veteran, then they can venture out and do other things as well. So we'll see them go out on a fishing trip, and next thing you know, they're out dating. They're bringing back a good quality of life, and it's amazing what one little fishing trip can do.
My name is Tim T. I currently serve with the 53rd Support Battalion out of Bartow, Florida. But prior to that, I was in North Carolina under aviation and logistics units. And I currently hold the rank of sergeant. And in 14 days, I will start my 12th year. The military in general teaches you how to go about the battle and how to fight it, but they don't teach you the stuff, the resources you need to fight the collateral damage when you come home. I was mostly dealing with deployment stressors and stuff like that, but it was mostly anger outbursts. And I still battle with that. I see it in some of my kids and stuff like that too. So so the good thing with that is I'm able to kind of help cope and help them mitigate it at a younger age, because they're 5, 7, and 10 versus getting my age and having to deal with it there. But for the most part, for me, being outdoors helps a lot. Like fishing, hunting, all of that. That's really relaxing for me.
I'm receiving therapy just as much as the people that I take out on the trips. So it helps me out. I love doing it. I love helping out other people. And at the end of the day, whenever we come back from a trip, whether it's from just a river cruise or offshore fishing, just seeing the smiles on everyone's faces, that's good enough for me.
Well, certainly having that support from a community of veterans that share similar experiences really seems to be the key here, to easing back into civilian life and getting out from under PTSD and other issues. Luis, kind of talk about, again, how special that bond is between veterans. And I imagine you're dealing with vets, these folks who are coming out of service, now going into college, and you might be one of their first contacts. And you've had this traumatic experience as well when you were injured. So talk about that connection and how have you been able to help some of them? I mean, have you encountered any of those folks who come back who are they're really suffering and they just need somebody to just kind of like talk to and be with them?
Correct. We have a robust veteran student club. Each of our campuses have a student club, and yes, I'm the administrator, and I'm also a vet. When they come in, they look at me as Mr. Torres and this and that, but I'm like, hey, I'm Luis. Let me help you get your benefits. But then I also make sure that they get connected with their fellow student veterans, because they're going to be more impactful, I think, than me, because they oftentimes will have barbecues together. Our student veteran clubs does fishing trips. We've also done what's it called? We go to the Keys and we do island dolphin care. We swim with dolphins too. So that we've done different things, but they come to school and leave school, they go home. But if they have their battle buddy still, their fellow student vets, that'll keep them engaged. Students that are engaged, by far, especially vets that are engaged, tend to complete, graduate, and move forward. But with me, when they come in, I always just say, hey, I'm Luis. How can we help you? How can I help you? And I do have an open door policy. They come in at all times to talk to me, and sometimes talk to me vet to vet, not having to do with their students, their academics, but just talk to me vet to vet.
Years after serving as a nurse in the U.S. Navy, Kathy Nateman dedicated her life to helping others, and it continues. She is now, with the help of her service dogs, spreading joy and peace to those most in need. Take a look. Every week, retired Navy nurse Kathy Nateman brings a little bit of joy to those going through tough times.
How does Clancy make you feel? Good? Yeah?
She and her retired guide dog Clancy visit with patients at Baptist Health's Miami Cancer Institute, providing much-needed comfort and love. Talk about how you've had this bond with that young boy Benjamin that we saw. How special has that been? And Clancy, he must know, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Benjamin and I met the day he was diagnosed with leukemia. And he was pretty upset the day we saw him, and the nurses were trying to draw his blood. And so I asked if Clancy could come and be with him. And he immediately reached for Clancy. His way of coping was to just hold on to Clancy. You didn't need to sing to him, you didn't need to count, you didn't need to do all these other things. Just let him hold on to Clancy. To see him happy and to see him doing well in his treatment and to know that Clancy's a part of that is really special, for sure.
Kathy's bond with Clancy started more than a decade ago as a volunteer puppy raiser for Southeastern Guide Dogs.
Southeastern Guide Dogs is a nonprofit organization. Our main focus, what we're really aimed at, is training and placing both guide dogs as well as service dogs with people who need them, and then also supporting those partnerships throughout the working life and career of the dog. We serve the visually impaired through our guide dog program, while our service dog program is specifically aimed at training and pairing dogs with veterans in need. Within the umbrella of the service dog program, we also train and place facility therapy dogs at military facilities, bases, and hospitals. We do Gold Star family dogs, as well as emotional support animals, depending on the needs of the applicant. Volunteers play a really critical role in the overall success of our organization. We have a number of volunteer opportunities, and they can range from helping in person on our campus in Palmetto, Florida. And then in addition to that, we also have opportunities for puppy raising, which means that a volunteer would open their home and open their family to raising a puppy in their home from about 8 to 10 weeks of age, all the way through about 12 to 14 months old when the dogs return to campus for formal training. It's a very rewarding experience. As you can imagine, a lot of time, love, and energy goes into the process. But if you spend some time talking to any one of our puppy raisers, you will hear how rewarding that process is to see it come full circle and see a dog really, succeeding and excelling in their role as a working service or guide dog.
Being a puppy raiser is probably the best job, which is all volunteer, but the greatest personal experience of self-sacrifice. It's a lot of work, no doubt, but if you've got love in your heart and if you love dogs, the school will provide you with a lot of support. We've had a variety of different personalities with the dogs, and some of the dogs are very small and some of the dogs are very big. So Clancy's a really nice, good-sized lab. He's 75 pounds, he's very tall, he's long, and he would be great, and he was great for a person who's really handicapped, and he was matched with a gentleman who was completely blind, which is a little unusual because typically a blind person maybe has a quarter of vision, maybe it's like looking through a screen that's very, very dirty, but to just have black, you need a really super strong guide dog, and that's what Clancy was.
For Kathy, helping others has been her life's work. Proud to have served her country, she's grateful the dogs she raises help other veterans most at risk. What was that like for you? What did it mean for you to serve in the military?
It was amazing. It was the best experience. It provided me the opportunity to travel. I got to see the country. It provided me with graduate school free of charge. It was amazing. I met so many great people. It was a wonderful part of my life.
What has it meant to you then to be able to be a puppy trainer and to provide dogs for veterans who really need a service dog because they're suffering from PTSD or some sort of other issue? What does that mean to you to be a veteran who can kind of give back in that way?
It means everything. I mean, it's a great feeling. And I've got one of my pups, Moosey, up in Tennessee with Joshua, with a veteran. And the school statistic is that every veteran who's received a veteran service dog has not committed suicide. And the day, Puppy Raiser Day, the day when my husband and I sat with Joshua, he reached out his hand and he said to us, I was going down a dark road and Moosey saved me. So when people ask, why would you do that? Why do you want to raise a dog? 14 months, takes so much time. You have to spend your money on that dog. That's why. You're saving someone's life. Now that pup could go to a Gold Star family or a child. Every dog has got such a great purpose. I mean, it is such an amazing opportunity to give. Plus, you're loving this dog. All you have to do is have love in your heart and love dogs, and you'll be a great puppy raiser.
So sometimes part of a veteran's complex transition back to civilian life is learning how to apply military skills to the civilian workforce and to business. So Alberto, you're a veteran entrepreneur. Talk about the work that you do.
When I think about what comprises a military person, there's two pieces of it, right? There's like the military professional, and then there's like the specific job they did while they were in the military. And so the specific job they did while they were in the military may or may not have perfect alignment with what you're going to do on the civilian side. But what you learned in becoming a military professional, I mean, from basic training on, that's the kind of stuff that sticks with you over the long haul and serves you well. Notions like, team members, supporting your team, being there for your coworkers, the soft skill leadership stuff, the communication skills, All of those things really serve you through the trajectory of your career. And sometimes, especially when I meet, young veterans on college campuses, they're immediately trying to tether what they did in the military to a civilian opportunity. And again, sometimes there's alignment that makes sense, but I always encourage them, even if there's not a direct line on the technical skill set side, what they learned in becoming a military professional will serve them for the rest of their career. And so I really try to underscore that message to them, and that seems to really land well.
Lewis, talk about the work that you're doing with student veterans at Palm Beach State College.
We deal with their GI Bill, making sure that they get their benefits timely and accurately. We also have dedicated veterans academic advisors. These veteran advisors know the ins and outs of the GI Bill and to better plan their academic completion. It could be more complex than you think than just taking courses because it's tied to their housing benefits. So again, this benefit is not just their schooling, it's a part of their life. One of the key things that we do is we bring the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center to come in and hold some office hours so that they can onboard into their system our veterans to make sure that they're getting those benefits. We also help them with financial aid. And we also, again, in the center, we house the Veterans Club. The Veterans Club is that camaraderie. Male and female veterans come together, have barbecue, go do bowling. We go fishing. But some of the difficulties now it's the same difficulties that we're all facing right now. Actually, it's online learning, right? And my fellow vets here will know. We'll do online, but it's not our bread. We prefer that in-house, on-campus, face-to-face training. I mean, it's just large majority of my vets prefer that. Just because that's the way we're trained, right? Isn't that basic training and AIT? And that's how you're trained in person, hands-on. So that's a big hurdle right now. Hopefully, we can go back to a sense of normalcy here soon. But another obstacle is just reacclimation. When the vet leaves, there's always every day there's a purpose. When they're in the military, they wake up, they know what uniform they need to put on, and there's a purpose. They have that daily purpose. They'll show up on time, and they'll follow the orders that are given by their superiors. When you're out, that's all gone. So that sense of direction. Now, I always tell my vets, let's find your purpose. You have a great benefit. Let's find your purpose. You don't have to get into a complete degree right now. Just do an AA. Find out what you like to do, and be the best at that.
Yeah. Alberto, we talked a little bit earlier about, and I mentioned at the top of the program that I am a former Navy wife. My dad was in the military. So there are family members behind the service members. And you're in that boat now. Your son followed in your footsteps and is currently a senior airman in the Air Force. He's stationed out in Arizona. He came back from his tour in Afghanistan this summer prior to the chaotic withdrawal in August. So talk about what that's like for you now as the dad of a military member. And how's he doing?
So he's doing fine, and I just can't help but to think of the Will Smith song, "Parents Just Don't Understand," right? And isn't that always true, right? Yeah. Isn't that always true? And so when I was the service member, and my parents were worried about Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and why would you go now, and so on and so forth, I was like, but everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. And off I went. And so I sit here now, and now it's my son who's out being deployed, and I'm wearing the hat of the parents. And I submit to you, this is tougher. My appreciation for the families. You obviously appreciate them at a certain level, but when you're on this side of the table, hoping that you don't get that call, right? And then if you get the call, it's from your human saying, "I'm coming home." My appreciation for military families have just grown exponentially, from the lived experience of being on this side with a child in uniform. At the end of the day, you call him senior airman, but he's just my kid to me, right? And so, yeah, that my appreciation for military families, I get it in a really real way now.
Well, we just saw some of the pictures of you giving your son a kiss on the cheek, and that just touches your heart, That's your boy. So I have a final question now for the panel as we get towards the end of the program. And Luis, I'll start with you. What message do you have for veterans out there who might be struggling to cope?
You're not alone. That's why people wind up, they believe it's so dark and there's no light. But if you let them remember that they're not alone, that they have a community of veterans, they have your family, they have church, go to find a purpose, find a light, no matter what.
Brittany, what would be your advice or your tip for our female veterans who are struggling? And is there anything what should the military be looking at and doing to protect our female veterans, or female service members, I should say?
Honestly, the best advice I can give is kind of like what Luis said, and that's just remember you're not alone. There are resources out there. Sometimes they're a little difficult to find, but if you need resources, just look around. If you need resources, even if it's not a legal service, feel free to call me on my office phone, and I will at least help you get to where you're going. As far as the military, they have made recent changes that are going to make a difference. But when you're dealing with an institution this old, it's one thing to put something into policy, it's another for the entire culture to change the way they view things. And I want to make clear, not all male service members want to harm male service members, right? It's one of those situations where you have a few bad people that make the entire unit look bad. So I think the best thing we can do is encourage people to stand up when they see certain behaviors that aren't, even if it's not directed at them, do say something and make it known that this isn't appropriate. But also we need to make it easier for people who are victimized to report. They need to not be afraid of their commander. They need to not worry that they're going to get retaliated against.
And Alberto, I'm going to give you the final word.
To the veteran at large, I would say if you transition successfully, someone helped you along the way too. And that we all have a responsibility to throw the rope back over the wall and help that transitioning veteran, right? Help that transitioning veteran. So be proactive in seeking them out, right? Learn about these programs, because you never know when you're going to bump into that starry-eyed transitioning veteran that's just looking to make that one connection, and that one connection can be you.
You can watch the full town hall on our Facebook page at Your South FL. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.